I'm a fifth generation Las Vegan, which makes me statistically, thank you, but here's what it makes me, statistically weird. This is my great-great-grandfather, the original Las Vegas ancestor. His name was Kid Jordan. Kid, I mean, they don't even have names like that anymore, right? Kid Jordan, and he came out here from Texas, not because he wanted to. He came out here from Texas because he kept getting arrested in Texas for working in casinos, which by definition in Texas at that time made you one of the bad guys. And he kept getting thrown in jail until somebody, sheriff presumably, tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, the likes of you can do the likes of that at Las Vegas, this little place out west." In many ways, Las Vegas started off as the Australia of the United States. Right? This is where we sent the convicts. And my grandmother, who's in that picture as well, standing at attention by Kid Jordan's side, loves to tell family history stories. She loves it a little bit too much. She'll do the thing in public. Does your grandma do this? She'll grab me overly enthusiastically and she'll just introduce me to random passersby. She'll say, "This is my grandson. He's a university professor." You know, your grandma's always like 30% prouder of you than your current life station merits. Then she kind of puts me in my place. She'll say, "My grandfather was a convict. My grandson is a university professor. We've gone from convict to university professor in 5 generations here in Las Vegas." So as a university professor in Las Vegas, it's my job to study Las Vegas. And what a gig that is, right? If you're the kind of person that loves to sit on the mall bench of life, like a fascinated anthropologist, and watch as the humanity strolls by, you gotta love studying the Las Vegas laboratory. And you can study it at so many different levels. And in studying it at many levels, I've come to conclude that Las Vegas is smart. And this runs contrary to so many popular portrayals of this place, but we need only turn to multiple disciplines that have started to uncover exciting new discoveries to reveal that this just might be the case. We need to be multidisciplinary thinkers to do this dance. We need to be able to see the world through lenses that are almost unimaginably tiny and lenses that are almost impossibly large, and at all points in between. So let's go on a little multidisciplinary ride, and let's think about ways in which the new research might tell us why Las Vegas is smart. So this is a brain cell called a neuron. You might have heard about neurons. These are the things that fire together and wire together, and that a lot of the new tools that reveal so much about neuroscience are starting to suggest that they kind of work like a muscle, in that the more they fire together, the more they come together, the stronger the brain muscle gets and the smarter in many senses we can get. And there's a particular type of neuron that's of interest to us called a mirror neuron. Now this mirror neuron has become sort of a sexy topic in the literature, because here's what it does. It allows us to lock brains with someone, to read what they're feeling, to feel what they're feeling, and then to respond based upon those interpretations over and over and over again. This happens sometimes when you have a great waiter, or you're staying at a great hotel, where they seem to be reading you and understanding what you need before you even have articulated to yourself that you need it. We might, as we learn more about these neurons, start to think of them as hospitality neurons. And maybe, just maybe, as the science evolves, we'll come to think of them as Las Vegas neurons. Because where else are the neurons firing quite like they're firing on the Las Vegas Strip? This is a place that welcomes 40 million people over for dinner year after year after year. This is the single most visited tourist site on the planet. Of all the places on the planet, more people up and move themselves from whatever plot of Earth they inhabit and plop themselves down there than any other plot of Earth anywhere on Earth. This is a remarkable achievement, in part because there's no there. There's no natural beauty here that's drawing millions upon millions of folks. It's not like we have a coastline, right? All of the things that draw people to Las Vegas are things that have been invented in the minds of Las Vegans. And another way to understand how smart this is to think about the newest forms of intelligence that researchers like Daniel Goleman are starting to summarize so well. The forms of intelligence that we now refer to as social intelligence, which sort of redefine what it means to be smart. And what these researchers are finding is that it's far more important to be able to successfully navigate your social world than it is to have whatever IQ measures. It's far more important to be a socially skilled individual than it is to ace your SAT. I once asked the HR director of that building, his name's Artie Nathan, hired 9,600 people to open the Bellagio. I asked him, how do you do that, right? How do you find people who are good at this? Because who knows what's going to walk through that door around the Las Vegas Strip. Market research firms love Las Vegas because you can get 30 states and 40 countries in 50 minutes of research walking up Las Vegas Boulevard, all of whom you have to serve at a place like the Bellagio. And Artie said something interesting. He said, you know, I think in life there are sort of two types of people. There are the people who fail a hug test, and there are people who pass a hug test. You know, you go through life on occasion, there's an occasion for a hug, and some people just nail the hug test, right? They know exactly what kind of hug you need at that moment, and they give you that kind of hug. These are the people who are cut out for hospitality. And then there are some other people who fail the hug test. They get the pat all wrong. They're patting, they're dancing, they're stiffening, they're recording, you know. And these are people who don't last long working on Las Vegas Boulevard. So in much the same way that you wash out of Silicon Valley if you're not tech savvy, or you wash out of Wall Street if you're not numbers savvy, if you're not socially savvy, you don't stand a chance in a career in the hospitality industry. For a long time, I thought it was really important to be nice, and it was really important to be smart. But I've come to believe that those two separate things are actually one thing. And that one thing is social intelligence. And social intelligence is where this street really shines brightly. So let's take that social intelligence to a macroeconomic level. Let's talk about what the economists talk about. Maybe you didn't know this. Las Vegas is the Houston of the gaming industry. Why? Because Houston is the intellectual capital of a global energy industry. Houston has gone from having its product literally under its feet to having a product that spans the globe, that headed off in the 70s to places like Saudi Arabia and Angola and Venezuela. But the intellectual capital remains in those skyscrapers in the Houston landscape. The decisions that are made in those skyscrapers drive a dynamic and global energy industry. All 20 of the world's largest energy companies, including Chinese oil companies, including Venezuela's energy companies, including Russia's energy companies, have a Houston address. All 20. And similarly, the world's gaming companies live here. This product that Las Vegans have invented and then sent out to the world in much the same way that Minneapolis's 3M, the ultimate Minneapolis company, invented Scotch tape and then sent it out to a happy planet. This is Las Vegas's invention that now spans the globe. In places like South Africa, they have these. In places like South Korea, they have these. In Singapore, in Sydney, this invention now spans the globe as the Las Vegas idea spreads. In the greater Memphis area, it hits a whole wide range of individuals. And in the greater Macao area, it hits a whole bunch of individuals. Maybe you've heard a little bit about Macao. Macao is a place that is literally twice the size of LAX airport. That's how big it is. Last year, it generated 7 times the revenue of this street. And yet, that was pretty much a mathematical certainty the moment they opened up something compelling. And you know where they had to turn when they wanted to open something compelling? Las Vegas. They turned to 3 mega resort companies and dozens upon dozens of technology companies to serve an industry that is now the world's largest. So Las Vegas, when you look planet-wide, is the global intellectual capital of the gaming industry. And to help us understand what that means, when you look at that entire planet's GDP, when you think macroeconomically, 10% of that planet's economic productivity is tourism. When you look at this, and you realize that Las Vegas then has invented some of the most dynamic drivers, the most dynamic economic forces, and that in Las Vegas skyscrapers, the decisions are made that drive that industry, this starts to put everything in perspective. That macro intelligence rests upon a social intelligence. And that social intelligence relies in turn on things like mirror neurons. So we've come full circle. We've moved from the tiniest spaces of neurobiology all the way out to the most vast and expansive spaces of economics. And at multiple levels, we find a Las Vegas that is smart. We've gone from the molecular to the global. We've gone from convict to university professor. And to return to my favorite convict, I asked my grandmother, who loves to tell the stories, how did Kid Jordan get his nickname? And when I asked her this, something came over her face, and my mirror neurons read that moment as sad. I wasn't expecting this, but it turns out that the story of how Kid Jordan became Kid Jordan is a fairly horrific one. In her words, Kid Jordan, who was then little Joe Jordan, little tiny Joe Jordan, came home to an angry household night after night after night. He came home to a very abusive father who happened to be a minister of all things, who, and this is my grandmother's phrase, beat him to a bloody pulp, day after day after day. When he was 9 years old, Kid Jordan decided to run away, never again to see this father again. And he ran off into the world. And at this point, I kind of imagine a Disney montage where really friendly characters take him under his wing, maybe a bird or something, or a friendly warthog, right? But whatever happened, it was miraculous. Because in engaging this kid, and then giving him the nickname Kid, the world somehow created an exceedingly socially intelligent individual. When I asked my grandma, what do you remember most about Kid Jordan, our original Las Vegas ancestor? She thought for a moment and she said, you know, every room that he walked into, people were so happy to see him. When he worked on casino floors, when he went from job to job, as happens in this industry, people would follow him just to sit at his table. Such was the magnetism of this man. This is a story of profound social intelligence that our conventional metrics would have missed. This was somebody whose last school day was in the 4th grade, and yet whose social intelligence shone through the generations. So in thinking about Kid Jordan, I've come to realize that Kid Jordan is Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is what it is because of many, many, many Kid Jordans. So when somebody tells you that Las Vegas ain't a particularly bright place, except for one sense, here's what you say. Our understanding of intelligence is bending in the direction of Las Vegas. An intelligent brain is a social brain. A social brain is a hospitality brain. A hospitality brain is a Las Vegas brain. And Las Vegas is smart. Thank you.